I'm Renny deGroot. Welcome to History Bites, a series of videos to show you the history behind the story. I'll give you historic snippets, and I'll read from my novel After Paris to share with you what I created with that history. I hope you enjoy it. In the summer of 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, was assassinated, which triggered a chain of events that resulted in World War I, the Great War, the war to end all wars. Alliances were formed which pitted the allies of France, Great Britain, and Russia against Germany and Austria-Hungary. The Netherlands was neutral during the war, but they did contribute. Many benevolent societies stepped up to provide medical support in the form of doctors and nurses, ambulances, supplies, and medicine. It was through this support that the Netherlands ambulance service in France came to be. My grandmother, Mary Elizabeth Thompson, and her sister, Alida Thompson, were both Dutch nurses who volunteered their services in Paris. I have a photo album chronicling her time there, and that inspiration led to this book. Let me read now the opening scenes of After Paris, where my character Lisbeth Swart and her sister Alida first arrive. Spring 1916. Lisbeth paused to savor the heady fragrance of the mild Parisian afternoon, a welcome contrast to the smell of winter-weary travelers of the Amsterdam train station, where she had shivered with a fleeting sense that she was making a terrible mistake. She could have turned back then, but instead she had gripped the medical bag and pulled herself up into the crowded train, turning her back as her sister Alida gave one last hug to each of their grim-faced parents before joining her. Lisbeth's mind raced with the fragmented thoughts of the past 5 days. Her stomach was settled now, but her heart still pounded with the same excitement as when she boarded the train with 4 other nurses, including her sister, and 1 doctor. The dirt, sweat, and general griminess of the long, exhausting journey by train and by ship through Folkestone and Dieppe clung to her now, making her itch. But all that melted away as she comprehended that finally she was here, in Paris. The March sun was warm, and the breeze carried the scent of budding flowers to Lisbeth as she stood beside her sister on the wide gravel boulevard, gazing at the hospital. Its beauty was deceptive, hiding, like a sepulchre, the horrors that she knew would be within. Lisbeth blinked, taking in the grandeur of the building, shining whitely in the sun. Le Pré Catalan in the Bois de Boulogne, now transformed into a hospital for the duration of the war, still retained the splendor that had made it a famous restaurant. A man on the 3rd floor looked down at them, seeming to study the new arrivals. He appeared small, framed in the tall window. Lisbeth looked away, unsettled. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Alida opened her arms to gesture at the magnificent rounded pavilion. Lisbeth nodded. "Did you see that man?" She tilted back her head to look up at the 3rd floor window again. Alida shook her head. "I didn't see anyone." "Come, we're going in." Alida's voice quavered, and she crowded forward to stay with the group. She glanced back over her shoulder at her sister. Lisbeth smiled at Alida, stood for another second, then followed the others a few steps behind.